If there is another crisis, if they have a limited amount of stock, who do you think they'll be giving their supplies to? The one who's always come with the hammer, or the one who has actually been there, supported them, listened, had a relationship, and when they were in need with payment terms, or when they came up with an innovation, actually listening to them and making them feel important, making them feel listened to. I think this is really a big wake-up call for all of us, for many buyers.
In Henkel, we were always making sure that we are a customer of choice, but this pandemic really brought up the importance of that topic. So we were making sure that the suppliers that really need the money to survive were getting that money to survive. Any company that has a long-term vision will make sure that the supplier network is sustainable. We make sure that the suppliers that we would like to work with equally like to work with us. So it just cannot be a one-way street.
For example, in the past, in one of my projects which I worked on, where I implemented a sustainable procurement program, and we wanted to approach a few suppliers where we wanted them to fill out a long survey. So instead of me just sending out an email or them getting reminders, they actually picked up the phone and had that conversation with them, and they were so thrilled and happy and surprised in a good way that they then immediately felt important, and they filled out that whole survey. And if you have a supplier where you have a purchase order for, I don't know, $50 a year, do they really need to fill out and go through that whole process than having another supplier with millions of spend? So I think really understanding these differences in your supply base. But overall, so communication and technology, I think these are the two main points I would say to enhance your supply experience.
I think we have many instances at least that I have seen within the organization where several functions have come together to make sure that either a particular problem was resolved. So if there is, let's say, a new project that needs that's a supplier-focused project, we would never have only the procurement or only the supply chain function involved.
If you put it from the supplier's perspective, I think there's a lot of burden which is actually put on the supplier, whether they know it or not, or do it purposefully or not. But there's always a lot of different systems, a lot of communications, a lot of big documents, where what they say is, look, it's your responsibility now. We've shared all this wonderful information, and you can go through, distill it, and you have to make sure that you adhere to it, you comply to it, you update, all of this kind of thing. So there's a huge burden to assimilate, understand, and figure out exactly what you need to do. So I would look at it, quite different maybe from the supplier's point of view than what they would think internally. Procurement is still in a way quite siloed, right? They're on board to transact, and people are not looking generally end to end. And procurement in most organizations actually doesn't own the end to end. So I think that's super valid, right? Probably they're looking at, my little slice. I'm doing it as good as I can, but no one's looking at, well, how is it from a company-wide perspective, right?
Procurement's taken care of like the first 3 dates in the relationship. Yeah, there's a whole marriage to come, which really we're not involved in. So that experience, and really once the supplier's got over, great, we've got a contract in place, we've been approved, we've uploaded all of our certificates to the right place, we've done all of these things. My goodness me, we've now got to invoice. Have I got a purchase order? Has the purchase order come in? It has, great, I've sent an invoice. Where do I send an invoice? Yeah, how does that happen? How do I get paid? Who do I phone to chase up because something, and you've got all of that side of it without even considering just the operational day-to-day of, well, fundamentally you're a supplier delivering goods or service. But the choice I made very early on is I wanted partnerships with all of these guys. I didn't want just a supplier relationship. I want that full-on partnership, and that level of honesty that I get from them is is brutal, and it's brilliant at the same time.
You also take this idea of employee experience, by the way, when you think of supplier experience. Employee experience was the same idea, right? You wanted employees to work harder, do better, give you their best. Back in the day, that wasn't the philosophy, right? It was be happy to have a job. Then companies realized that, wait, if I put a gym in the office and I give them healthy food and all these things, they'll spend more time in the office, they'll be more efficient, we'll help them deal with their other things. So it's the exact same philosophy. It is selfishly for the benefit, again, of the organization, but you can do it in a win-win approach, right? That's really the way we see it.
I haven't yet come across something that can measure the quality of the actual relationship itself.
That's the thing. SRM tends to be for the few, the important, the strategic. And these are not measures, by the way, of the relationship, or they're very one-sided. SXM, for me, it's more around creating a one-to-one, by the way, approach to every supplier. We have plenty of examples to these, but generally what happens is you try and do a one-size-fits-all. And that's where you get all this inefficiency and the bad experience. It's clear you're not going to manage the flower shop around the corner the same way as you're going to manage Cisco. But Supplier Experience Management is figuring out the way to do it for all, right?
The experience bit is as much about people as it is about the systems and the tools.
At the core of SXM, actually, it is a data topic, which is the true benefit for large organizations in embarking on it is to solve a massive data challenge which they have today. And at the end of the day, without data, you cannot be efficient, right? And experiences today are fully digital. So the philosophy here is better experiences create better data creates better experiences.
I think it really has to be a corporate culture almost, a corporate mindset rather than just a procurement mindset.
When I think of supplier centricity and I think of all the work that we did during COVID, it really dynamically changed the way that we thought about our supplier partners, the manner in which we relied on them.
It's impossible or relatively impossible for you alone as the customer to go and change the regulations without heavy involvement of the suppliers as to what differences, what changes would really make sense and improve safety, quality, cost, value, etc. There's an ROI of improving for the business, so for the industry as a whole, let's say, rather than just your own company. So you say in gas or energy or whatever, if you can improve the regulations, then actually it drives on and improves quality, value, etc. for everyone, even for your competitors at some point when they catch up.
What we found within our supplier base is many of them do business with each other. And so as we have built our diverse supplier community, they've become a community unto themselves. And so 75% can reach out and ask each other, key questions. And for us, that has just strengthened the diverse supplier network that we have. Sustainability is really top of mind. We've looked at our Scope 1 and 2 emissions so that we can be carbon neutral, and we were able to achieve that last year. But now when we're starting to tackle Scope 3 emissions, very, very different discussion, and we will rely on our supplier partners more and more to achieve the bold goals that we're trying to adopt.
It's who has the shared ambition, who has the shared objective, who can work with you and invest their time alongside you to really jointly be successful. And so I say maturity, but I don't see it as a subset. When you mentioned about subsets, Kelly, I don't really see it as like SPM for everybody, then SRM for a few, and then SXM as a subset of them. We talk about the supplier experience. Hopefully, people have got the idea that yes, that those suppliers are an extension of our organization. Let's maintain those relationships.
Transparency is a big need for us. And so I would hope we would be able to look into our supply chain partners. And the other big thing in 5 years is I hope that we've all made a significant commitment to our environment, to sustainability, to adopting Scope 3, emission reduction. And we have the ability not only to spend our dollars, but to make our spend count towards impact spending and in more sustainable products.